The stars whisper a truth older than time. The zodiac is no mere horoscope, but a sacred map of your soul's journey through eternity. In the lost realms of Atlantis and Lemuria, the constellations held the keys to your deepest self. Step into their light and rediscover your cosmic path. What if the story of your soul did not begin in this lifetime or even in the last few lifetimes, but stretched back to ages so ancient that they have become legend? What if the signs of the zodiac were not meant to tell you whether your week will be lucky, but instead were designed as a living map, an intricate soul compass to guide you through the vast ocean of existence across millennia? In the ancient worlds of Atlantis and Lemuria, the zodiac was not a personality tool. It was a sacred initiation path, a spiral of consciousness that marked where you had been, what you had mastered, and what your soul still yearned to understand. These civilizations knew that life was not a straight line from birth to death, but an eternal cycle of becoming each turn of the wheel, moving you closer or further from your true essence. In Lemuria, the zodiac was understood as a living circle of emotional and spiritual healing. Each sign carried not just a symbolic meaning, but a frequency, an energy that resonated in the heart and the subtle body. Lemurian elders would teach that you were born under a sign, not because the stars ruled you, but because your soul chose that particular frequency to work with in this lifetime. In Atlantis, the approach was more technical but no less sacred. The Atlantean star temples were aligned with celestial gates corresponding to each zodiac sign, and initiates would undergo elaborate rites to pass through these gates in their spiritual training. Each successful passage unlocked not only knowledge but the ability to wield energy in harmony with cosmic law. But something happened, something that shattered the continuity of this knowledge. When both Atlantis and Lemuria fell, much of their wisdom was scattered, distorted, or deliberately hidden. The zodiac's true purpose was obscured, reduced over time to fortune-telling, personality descriptions, and entertainment. The living map became a flat diagram. The soul compass was replaced by a calendar of vague predictions. And humanity forgot that these 12 and sometimes 13 gates were part of a reincarnation cycle, a sacred system for remembering who you truly are. Now, in our time, fragments of that ancient knowledge are resurfacing. People are sensing that astrology is more than sun signs and horoscopes. They are feeling the pull to remember the way the ancients worked with the stars, not as external rulers, but as mirrors of the soul's eternal journey. This video will take you back into that memory, weaving together the lost threads of Lemurian compassion, Atlantean mastery, and the cosmic wheel of the zodiac. By the end, you may find that you haven't been learning something new at all. You've been remembering something you always knew long before the zodiac became a chart in a modern astrology book. It was a living, breathing field of consciousness. To the ancient souls of Atlantis and Lemuria, it wasn't simply a tool for prediction. It was the architecture of reality itself. The 12 signs, and in some esoteric systems the 13th gate, were seen as cosmic portals, points of entry and passage through which the soul traveled not just during life but between lifetimes. Each sign represented a distinct mode of being, a school of wisdom, a set of challenges and gifts that the soul had to integrate before moving forward. The ancients did not see the zodiac as something imposed on you from the outside. Instead, they believed your soul chose the gate it entered through in this lifetime, knowing that the qualities and trials associated with that sign would shape your growth. If you were born through the gate of Aries, for example, it meant your soul sought to master courage, initiative, and the fire of creation. In this round of the journey, if you entered through Pisces, it meant you were working on dissolving boundaries, embracing compassion, and remembering unity with the source. This choice was intentional, purposeful, and deeply tied to the karmic momentum built over countless lives. In Lemuria, the zodiac was depicted as a perfect circle carved into sacred stone platforms, often positioned to mirror the constellations above. This was not mere decoration. It was a ceremonial space. Elders would walk initiates through each segment of the circle, imparting the ancient stories, the lessons, and the vibrational medicine of each sign. They understood that the zodiac was not linear. You didn't simply progress from one sign to another in a fixed order. Instead, you cycled through them in patterns dictated by your soul's needs, weaving a tapestry of experience over lifetimes. Atlantis took a more structured temple-based approach. Their grand observatories were not just for tracking planetary movement. They were aligned with the zodiac gates in such precision that certain chambers would only receive direct starlight from their corresponding constellation during specific times of the year. This was when initiation rites would take place. Passing through a gate in the temple was believed to align you energetically with that sign's wisdom, enabling you to embody its strengths and transmute its shadows. Such ceremonies were not casual affairs. They involved fasting vision quests and encounters with symbolic trials designed to test the initiate's readiness. The key point the ancients agreed upon was this: the zodiac is a map for the soul, not the ego. It is not here to tell you whether you'll have a good week. It's here to remind you of where you've been, what you've mastered, and what your soul came here to learn next. It is a navigation tool that operates across lifetimes, connecting your present incarnation to a far greater story. Modern astrology has captured only the surface layer of this knowledge. Without the deeper initiatory understanding, the zodiac becomes like a compass without a magnet, something that looks the part but cannot truly guide you home. As we step further into this journey, we will see how Lemuria's heart-centered approach and Atlantis's precision mastery combined to form a complete system for soul remembrance, and why losing that integration has left humanity adrift for millennia in the mist-veiled lands of Lemuria, far removed from the competitive hierarchies that would later dominate Atlantis. The zodiac was not a ladder of achievement. It was a circle of belonging. Every sign was honored equally, not because of the power it conferred, but because of the healing it offered. Lemurian culture was rooted in a deep connection to the divine feminine, the aspect of creation that nurtures, receives, and restores. Their understanding of the zodiac reflected this, treating each gate not as a challenge to conquer, but as an energy to integrate gently in alignment with the rhythms of nature and the tides of the soul. For the Lemurians, the zodiac was not an abstract concept drawn on parchment. It was embodied in the land, the sea, and the sky. Sacred groves were dedicated to each sign, their flora and fauna, carrying the vibrational essence of that gate. Those born under a sign would often make pilgrimage to its corresponding grove or shoreline, bathing in the natural elements that resonated with their soul's frequency. For example, those connected to Cancer might gather near sheltered coves where the ocean's ebb and flow mirrored the emotional tides within. Those aligned with Virgo might spend seasons tending medicinal gardens, learning the sacred balance of care and discernment. The Lemurian zodiac was also deeply tied to community and emotional healing. It was believed that no soul came into a lifetime to work on its own lessons in isolation. Instead, people were grouped in ways that allowed the signs to balance and support each other. This meant that the gifts of one sign could help transmute the wounds of another and vice versa. In a Lemurian healing circle, it was not uncommon for someone working through the shadows of Scorpio fears of betrayal, cycles of loss, to be guided by the stabilizing presence of a Taurus soul, grounding them in trust and patience. This interplay was seen as a living demonstration of how the zodiac operated in harmony. What made the Lemurian approach so unique was its rejection of hierarchy in spiritual growth. There was no higher sign, no point on the wheel that made one more advanced than another. Each sign was a facet of the same gem, and every soul would eventually walk through all gates. This removed the ego from the process, fostering humility and openness in the journey of self-discovery. The elders often said, "The wheel turns and we turn with it, not to climb above each other, but to remember we are one." Yet this wisdom did not survive unaltered. After Lemuria's fall, triggered by both geological upheaval and the subtle infiltration of competitive Atlantean-like structures, the feminine zodiac began to fade. The emphasis on community healing was replaced in many surviving cultures with the pursuit of personal power. The softer heart-based teachings were deemed impractical in a world where survival required dominance. In time, the zodiac lost much of its emotional depth, reduced to something that spoke more to mental categories than to the living heart of the soul. Still, fragments of Lemurian wisdom endure, often hidden in folk traditions, oral myths, and sacred symbols. Even now, when people feel a pull toward a particular sign without knowing why, or when they find deep emotional healing simply by connecting with nature under certain constellations, they are touching a surviving thread of the Lemurian zodiac. To reclaim this knowledge is to restore the balance between head and heart, something humanity urgently needs if we are to navigate the next turn of the cosmic wheel. If Lemuria held the heart of the Zodiac, Atlantis held its mind. Where the Lemurians wove the science into the fabric of daily life and emotional healing, the Atlanteans constructed a precise temple-based system that treated the Zodiac as a curriculum of mastery. Each sign was a gate, but here those gates were approached with the rigor of a scholar, the discipline of a mystic, and the precision of an engineer. To pass through them was not a passive experience. It required deliberate preparation, testing, and transformation. Atlantean star temples were architectural marvels aligned so perfectly with the heavens that certain chambers would only be illuminated by starlight from their corresponding zodiac constellation on specific nights of the year. These nights were known as the Gates of Light, and initiates would prepare for months in advance to stand in that beam. The rituals were not symbolic pageantry. They were energy transmissions. The alignment between the temple's sacred geometry, the Earth's magnetic field, and the incoming stellar frequency created a resonant field in which the initiate's consciousness could be reprogrammed at a soul level. Each zodiac sign in the Atlantean system represented a different mastery of universal law. Aries was the law of initiation, the force that sets all creation into motion. Libra was the law of equilibrium governing balance and justice across realms. Capricorn embodied the law of ascent, the discipline of climbing from density toward light. These laws were not philosophical abstractions. They were operational codes of the universe, much like the unseen mathematics that holds the stars in orbit. Learning them allowed the initiate to work with reality instead of against it. But there was a danger in the Atlantean approach. Mastery, when pursued without the balancing heart of Lemurian wisdom, could tip into control. As Atlantis advanced, a division emerged between those who sought mastery to serve the whole, and those who sought it to consolidate personal or political power. The Zodiac, once a shared spiritual inheritance, began to be guarded as secret knowledge. High initiations became restricted to an elite priesthood, and the gates of the temple were closed to the general populace. This secrecy not only fragmented the original teachings but also set the stage for the catastrophic misuse of power that contributed to Atlantis's fall. In the centuries following the collapse, fragments of the Atlantean zodiacal system survived, carried by migrating priests into Egypt, Sumeria, and the Indus Valley. These fragments, temple alignments, star calendars, symbolic depictions of the signs would influence later civilizations. But without the original initiatory framework, they became hollowed shells. The intricate link between zodiacal gates and soul progression was lost to all but the most secretive esoteric schools. Today, when we see the zodiac reduced to personality traits and newspaper horoscopes, we are looking at the echo of a once mighty science, a cosmic architecture designed for the evolution of consciousness. To understand Atlantis's zodiac of mastery is to remember that the signs are not just symbolic archetypes, but energetic gates that can alter the course of a soul's journey. Reclaiming this understanding means reuniting it with Lemuria's heart-centered wisdom. For without love, mastery becomes a weapon. And without mastery, love becomes powerless in the face of chaos. The destruction of Atlantis and Lemuria was more than the loss of two civilizations. It was the erasure of a unified spiritual technology that had once guided the evolution of humanity. When these continents fell, so too did the complete zodiacal system that bound heart and mind, feeling, and knowledge into a coherent path for the soul. What survived was scattered, fragmented into myths, symbols, and half-remembered rituals carried across the seas by survivors. But without the full framework, the zodiac slowly transformed from a living initiation path into a diluted cultural memory. In the aftermath, remnants of the Lemurian heart-centered approach fused with traces of Atlantean mastery in various pockets of the world. In some places, this knowledge became embedded in the oral traditions of indigenous peoples masked in animal totems or seasonal ceremonies. In others, it took root in emerging priesthoods who sought to preserve what they could, but often through secrecy and control, fearing that open access to the teachings might lead to misuse. This secrecy, while intended to protect, also meant that generations grew up with only fragments of the map, never seeing the full design. Over centuries, as human societies became more hierarchical and power-driven, the zodiac's purpose was steadily stripped down to serve political and religious systems. Where it had once been a tool for personal liberation and conscious reincarnation, it became a means of categorization and fate-binding. Astrological signs were reduced to descriptors of personality, fortune, or destiny, things to be predicted rather than paths to be walked with intention. The deeper truths, such as the way each sign represented a stage of soul initiation and a gateway to higher consciousness, were buried beneath layers of superstition or dismissed as primitive lore. Perhaps the most damaging shift was the loss of the Zodiac's reincarnation context. The ancients had known that the soul moved through the wheel not just in one lifetime but across many, with each sign acting as a chapter in an ongoing story. Without this understanding, the Zodiac became static, a label fixed at birth instead of a dynamic journey unfolding over eons. The compass that once pointed toward spiritual north now spun aimlessly, its magnetism weakened by forgetfulness. This loss was not accidental. Certain ruling classes, descendants of those who once held Atlantean priesthood power, recognized that a population disconnected from the true Zodiac was easier to control. Without access to their soul map, people could be steered by external authority rather than their own inner guidance. The cosmic gates, once open to all, became symbolic locks, their keys hidden in plain sight through architecture, art, and sacred texts that only the initiated could interpret. Yet even in this long night of forgetting, the soul remembers dreams, synchronicities, inexplicable affinities for certain times of year or certain constellations. These are the whispers of the ancient map calling us back. The fall did not destroy the Zodiac. It only covered it. The knowledge waits encoded in the stars and in the deep memory of the human spirit for those willing to remember. As we move forward in this journey, we will explore the Zodiac as a reincarnation cycle, revealing how the ancient Atlantean and Lemurian teachings converge to show us where we have been, why we are here, and what awaits beyond the next gate. In the original Atlantean Lemurian understanding, the Zodiac was never meant to be a snapshot of your personality at birth. It was a cycle of soul passage that unfolded across countless lifetimes. Each sign represented not only an archetype but a phase of consciousness, a gateway the soul would enter, inhabit, and eventually transcend before moving on to the next. The journey was not strictly linear. Some souls would revisit certain gates multiple times, refining their mastery, while others would skip forward or spiral back depending on the lessons unfinished. The Lemurians saw this cycle as an emotional and spiritual spiral, one that curved inward toward the remembrance of Source. They understood that a soul might, for example, spend several lifetimes in the energy of Virgo, learning the delicate art of discernment, healing, and humility before moving into Libra to explore harmony, relationship, and the balance of self and other. It was never about advancing in the sense of hierarchy. It was about wholeness. Eventually, every soul would touch every sign, absorbing its medicine and integrating its shadow. The Atlanteans, with their structured approach, tracked this reincarnation journey with astonishing precision. Through the use of celestial alignments, soul records, and energetic signatures, they could determine not only your current sign, but your previous incarnational gates, your karmic residue, and the next probable phase of your journey. They saw patterns that span centuries. Souls who cycled between Leo and Aquarius to balance personal power with collective service, or between Taurus and Scorpio to master stability and transformation. Key to this system were the lunar nodes, points in the chart representing the past south node and the evolutionary path forward north node. The Atlanteans taught that your south node often carried the echoes of your Lemurian lifetimes. Your emotional imprints, ancient gifts, and the karmic comfort zones you tend to fall back into. Your north node, on the other hand, was more aligned with the Atlantean vision of conscious evolution, the direction your soul had chosen for growth in this lifetime. The interplay between these points was seen as a bridge between the heart-centered wisdom of Lemuria and the disciplined mastery of Atlantis. This understanding of the Zodiac as a reincarnation cycle brought profound clarity. Life's challenges were no longer random misfortunes, but necessary initiations. Relationships were not accidents of fate, but encounters with familiar souls who had walked with you through other gates. Even the timing of certain events, illness, opportunity, loss was recognized as part of the rhythm of the cycle, pushing you toward integration. Modern astrology touches on fragments of this truth, but often misses the depth of its reincarnation context. Without this, people remain stuck in a limited view. I am a Sagittarius instead of I am passing through Sagittarius on my soul spiral. The difference is transformative. The first confines you to an identity. The second invites you into a journey. When we remember this original teaching, the zodiac transforms from a static chart into a living, breathing map of our eternal becoming. It reminds us that the soul is not defined by where it is now, but by the movement through the gates over lifetimes, carrying forward wisdom, shedding illusions, and slowly weaving itself back to its divine origin. In the next part, we will explore how to restore this ancient soul map in our modern age, combining Lemurian compassion with Atlantean precision to navigate the path ahead. To restore the ancient soul map is not merely an act of historical curiosity. It is a conscious choice to reclaim a navigational system that was once the birthright of every incarnating soul. This restoration requires more than learning the symbolic meanings of the zodiac signs. It demands that we reawaken the living, multidimensional structure that Lemuria and Atlantis once held in harmony. The goal is not to recreate their civilizations exactly, but to integrate the heart of Lemuria and the mind of Atlantis within ourselves. The first step is remembering the zodiac as an energetic wheel, not a static diagram. This means seeing each sign as a living frequency that you can enter through meditation, dream work, and intentional ritual. When you consciously immerse yourself in the vibration of a sign, whether or not it is your sun sign, you begin to activate the memory threads from lifetimes in which you walk through that gate. These memories may arise as images, sensations, or sudden insights that feel older than your current identity. This is the soul's recognition of its own path. From the Lemurian side, restoration involves reconnecting the zodiac to nature and emotional resonance. Spend time under the actual constellations, not just reading about them. Feel the difference in your energy when certain signs dominate the night sky. Create or visit sacred spaces that embody the qualities of each sign. Gardens for Virgo, open seas for Pisces, mountain peaks for Capricorn. Engage in practices that open the heart and allow the emotional body to attune to these archetypal frequencies, just as Lemurian healers once guided initiates to do. From the Atlantean side, restoration means recovering the precision and discipline of working with cosmic cycles. This includes tracking not only the movement of the sun through the signs, but also the interplay of planets' nodes and eclipses as energetic gates. Align significant personal work with these celestial timings as the Atlanteans did during their gates of light. Learn to read your own natal chart as a map of multiple lifetimes, noting patterns that may reveal the sequence of your reincarnation journey. The synthesis of these two approaches, heart-centered immersion and mind-centered mastery, is the true restoration. Without the Lemurian heart, the zodiac becomes cold and hierarchical. Without the Atlantean mind, it becomes vague and sentimental. Together, they form a balanced living system that not only charts your path, but also empowers you to walk it with awareness. Restoring the ancient soul map also has a collective purpose. When enough individuals begin to navigate their lives with this deeper zodiac, the human collective starts to reorient toward its true north. We become less reactive to the illusions of control imposed by societal systems and more attuned to the natural rhythms of cosmic law. Communities can be formed not around competition for power, but around the balanced interplay of archetypal gifts, echoing the Lemurian healing circles and Atlantean councils of mastery. This is not a fantasy of returning to some mythical golden age. It is the work of bringing forward what was best in those ages and rooting it in the present moment. The zodiac has always been here, etched into the sky, patiently waiting for humanity to remember its true function. It is not lost. It is simply unused in its full capacity. And when we choose to restore it, we choose to step back into a conversation with the cosmos that has been going on for millennia. In the final part, we will bring these threads together and see why this remembrance is not just for the individual seeker, but for the future of humanity itself. We began this journey with a question. What if the zodiac was never meant to predict your future, but to help you remember your past? Along the way, we walked the temples of Atlantis where mastery was earned through initiation and precision alignment with the stars. We stood in the healing circles of Lemuria where each sign was honored as an equal facet of the soul's wholeness. We traced the cycle of reincarnation across lifetimes through gates that the modern world has reduced to mere symbols but which the ancients knew as living thresholds of transformation. And now we arrive here in the present at a time when humanity stands at another turning of the wheel. The same choice that faced the ancients is before us. to forget and drift further into separation from the cosmic map, or to remember and walk once again with the living sky as our guide. The difference now is that the responsibility for this remembrance lies not in the hands of a priesthood or a hidden order. It rests in you. The circle does not wait for permission. It turns regardless. But when you step into it consciously, you find that it is not you moving through the Zodiac. It is the Zodiac moving through you. The knowledge of Atlantis and Lemuria is not lost because it was destroyed. It is lost because we stopped living it. Yet fragments remain in our dreams, our myths, our inexplicable call towards certain constellations. They live in the way you feel a surge of energy at specific times of year, in the way certain lessons seem to repeat in different forms lifetime after lifetime. These are not accidents. They are the echo of the soul map calling you to remember that you have been here before and that the stars are not distant. They are mirrors. If you take nothing else from this journey, let it be. The Zodiac is not a cage that defines you. It is a path that frees you. Each sign is not a label. It is a gate. Each gate is not an ending. It is a beginning. And every step you take toward integrating its wisdom is a step back toward the wholeness you have always carried within you. The ancients knew this truth, and deep down so do you. The circle had been turning since before your first breath, and it will continue long after your last. But in this lifetime, in this moment, you have the rare chance to walk it with awareness. And in doing so, to remember that you were never lost. The map was always here. The circle has always remembered. The stars are calling you back to the ancient map of your soul. Will you answer? Take a moment tonight to gaze at the night sky, feel the pull of the constellations, and ask yourself, what gate am I passing through now? Reconnect with the Zodiac's living wisdom through meditation, nature, or studying your natal chart, and start walking the path the ancients left for you. The circle is turning, and your soul is ready to remember. Subscribe and join us for more journeys into the mysteries of existence as we rediscover the cosmic truths that guide us home.